I got this idea because during the Monster Association raid by the S-Class heroes, Flash is gearing up to fight Orochi in what he calls the Battle of the Millennium, and Monaco leads him into Orochi's lair. In the original webcomic, he even calls himself the protagonist who arrives to defeat the final boss. And while most other characters also had plans to fight Orochi, like Child Emperor and a Mime Mask, Flash is kind of the only one you can imagine it being a bit more realistic. He's the last hero standing after every other hero is taken down by Platinum S, and he has to fight him and Monster Garou at the same time in one of the most insane visual displays in the entire series. So what would have happened if Saitama didn't deal with Orochi himself and the fastest man alive had to fight the Monster King? If you like One Punch Man videos like this, then hit the subscribe button. We do One Punch Man and Hunter x Hunter content pretty regularly, as well as some other topics here or there, so if you're into that, maybe stick around. Help us hit 50,000 subscribers. Thank you always for watching, and enjoy. Flashy Flash was the #1 student of the Ninja Village, a place that defies ethics and even time in order to breed the best assassins the world has to offer. Purposely holding himself back, Flash pretended to be a failure so he could receive the harshest training regimens. From 5 to 16, he trained 66 hours a day in all manner of killing techniques. He'd then execute his fellow classmates, instructors, senior ninja, and everyone that had anything to do with the village on the day of his graduation. Sometime after that, he'd become S-Class rank 13, which from the surface may lead one to believe he's among the weaker members, however this is far from the case. According to Flashy Flash, the mark of a first-rate warrior is someone who defeats their opponent in a single strike without leaving any trace they were ever there. During his time, he wiped out almost every major underground criminal organization so stealthily even other elite ninjas weren't aware he'd done it, and never reported his accomplishments to the Hero Association but was still made S-Class. This is also why he made an effort to defeat Galewind and Hellfire Flame with a single attack rather than destroy them one-on-one and risk the other one getting away. This explains why Flash can have feats that exceed top-tier heroes like Darkshine, Atomic Samurai, and even Silverfang, debatably, but ranks well beneath them. It's also why he seems so randomly absurd whenever he actually fights, as we rarely get to see him go all out. However, we do need to analyze what he's actually done to get a gauge onto what he's capable of. Near the climax of the Monster Association raid arc, Flashy Flash is the last hero standing, aside from Metal Bat, and has to fight Monster Garou and Platinum S. The trio start trading hands and create this massive light constellation over the ruins of the battlefield and clash hundreds of times. Many people will downplay this feat due to Flash being the first one to go down and neither opponents really taking that much damage compared to the Speedster. However, the fact is Flashy Flash clashed with these two so many times it's insane. Every single dot on this light structure represents one of these trio clashing with another. For Flash to block, deflect, and match his opponents this many times, he'd need to scale to them at least a bit. Even if you don't believe Flash is truly their equal, Golden S, who is weaker than Platinum S, managed to knock Darkshine out with a single blow, and Garou, who one-shot Vomit Fury Ugly, who was Darkshine's equal in strength. These two can one-shot Darkshine level opponents, yet Flash can still hang in there. There's also the fact Flash was weakened, no longer wielding his sword insta-kill, and being unable to use his greatest moves, such as the Flashy Slash. The Flashy Slash, which he used to cleave 2 dragon level monsters in half, those same monsters who could draw blood from Flash with physical strikes. Platinum S even comments on the fact Flash is weakened without his blade, implying that with it he might actually pose a threat to the fused monster, or do some damage at the very least. That and the fact Platinum S implies Flashy Flash is the strongest human he's fought makes this scale very consistent. If you think Platinum S was holding back and could one-shot Flash the whole time, by all means, this doesn't look like the face of someone using 0.1% of his power, but go off. Garou would still be going for the win, as he will try to take his opponents down as quickly as possible most of the time, especially with his techniques that are especially powerful on humans like Flash. There's just not enough reasons for me to believe Flash is below people that Garou and Platinum S would otherwise no-diff. Let me put it this way, do you guys think Super Alloy Darkshine would be able to trade blows with Monster Garou and Platinum S this many times? I thought not. With that in mind, Flashy Flash should scale above many powerful heroes such as Atomic Samurai, Super Alloy Darkshine, and even Silverfang. I know I've said that the martial artist would take the win over Flash, but as I've always said, Flash was always the stronger of the two, especially with his sword. The reasons for Bang winning have always been more of a bad matchup for Flash, with Bang's martial arts giving him a huge advantage against somebody like Flash, but not against extremely large monsters, as Phoenix Man put it. All in all, Flash with just his bare hands should scale to an impressive tier, not being above Darkshine level. With his sword, he can use his strongest moves, such as the Flashy Slash, which cleaved Galewind and Hellfire Flame in half, while these two were physically powerful enough to do damage to Flash in their scuffle. This doesn't scale to every casual swing of his blade, but it does mean the Flashy Slash can defeat opponents on his level, physically speaking. His speed is pretty self-evident in that he is one of, if not the fastest S-Class, barring Blast. Once again, he kept up with Platinum S and Monster Garou for an extended period, dodging their attacks and not getting blitzed by them, and so on. Therefore, scale far above the likes of Atomic Samurai, who, while further amped by the mythical Sunblade, still got reacted to by Golden S, an inferior version of Platinum S. He'd also be far faster than Garou's earlier forms, such as when he destroyed Super Alloy Darkshine. In terms of skills, Flash had been trained for over a decade in assassination techniques and ninjutsu, and would hone his abilities in private long after. He was able to embarrass other more experienced ninjas with his strategies, with Gale conceding that while they were genius level, Flash was even more skilled and precise than they were. He would train to the level he claimed to know all of Wind and Flame's techniques and could read them like a book. He also has techniques he considers forbidden, although he did seem to consider using them on Saitama and just didn't get the chance because Saitama was too fast. At the time of this video, which is near the onset of the Heavenly Ninja Party arc, third time, we don't know what these forbidden techniques are, so we won't be considering them for this versus discussion. Orochi, on the other hand, is kind of absurd, and many people forget because of his fairly embarrassing defeat against Saitama, but it's still by all counts a top tier. In the words of Psychos, the scientist who created him, Orochi was the strongest monster and the ultimate life form on the entire planet. This would place him above heavy hitters such as Goketsu, who can one-shot other dragon-level monsters, the essentially immortal Evil Natural Water, and Homeless Emperor, someone who can dominate Vomit Fear Ugly by pointing a finger at him. While some of the cadres were more confident, such as Black S, Psychos is a more valid source in all honesty due to her ability to measure the strength of monsters, whereas the cadres are simply confident in their strength. In fact, it's stated outright they believe absolutely in their own power. Psychos would actually know how strong they all are and could compare them, but thinks nobody comes close to Orochi. Orochi also believes none of the cadres are even worthy as sacrifices for him anymore. They are basically fodder. Psychos even thought Orochi would have beaten King, and this is more insane than you might think. At this point, it was believed that King had defeated Elder Centipede in a single blow, a feat Golden S thought made King the greatest obstacle and a monster that Silverfang could not defeat. Even with help from his brother Bomb, all their combination assault did was crack Elder Centipede's shell while his body underneath remained intact and regenerated. If King defeated him in one attack, but Psychos believes Orochi would still succeed against the strongest man on Earth. Logically, she thinks Orochi would one-shot Elder Centipede as well. This is consistent, seeing as Orochi, after meeting Saitama, the one who defeated Elder Centipede and Rover, simply gets excited at finding a worthy sacrifice and unleashed his full power, which even Psychos didn't know about. After getting splattered by Saitama and reduced to piles of goop, he was still powerful enough to pressure suppressed Tatsumaki even better than an elixir-amped Psychos. The same Psychos who thought a meat puppet with a fraction of her powers was the only cadre strong enough to defeat Tatsumaki one-on-one. Orochi is also a supremely versatile fighter. The countless experiments Psychos did resulted in shape-shifting on a massive scale, fire blasts, fusing with the earth to launch his strongest attack, the Gaia Cannon. His genius intellect has also made him a master of martial arts with the ability to copy all of Garou's moves with a single glance, and use them through a swarm of dragons that could each wield the water stream. So with that, Flash is going to have a lot of trouble competing with Orochi in terms of raw power. Being physically stronger than Darkshine is impressive, but Orochi dwarfs the power of the cadres, many of which in turn dwarf that of Darkshine. The thing is, while Flash is stronger, he's not that much stronger than the likes of Silverfang, physically speaking. Taking many blows and damaging the same Garou, that would give Flashy Flash a hard time. Bang, with help from his brother Bomb and Genos, had absolutely no chance of defeating Elder Centipede, even with a special combination assault that left them exhausted for the rest of the day. If you think Flash would beat Silverfang and chop him in half with the Flashy Slash, that's perfectly fine. However, Orochi scales multiple tiers above Bang and people that would beat him. There's simply no way to argue Flash boasts more attack potency than what Bang and Bomb can dish out together. And even that was not enough to defeat Elder Centipede, who Orochi would obliterate. At one point, Orochi's fully exposed heart gets hit by an even more powerful combination after just getting jumped by numerous other S-Class heroes, and it still takes Tatsumaki in the end to finish him off. Flash will probably have a hard time even damaging Orochi, and even if he could, the Monster King managed to come back from a punch from Saitama as a messed up goo monster, possibly even stronger than ever before. The only thing going for Flash is his speed. Perhaps with his skill and speed he may overwhelm Orochi by targeting his weak points while he zips around like a fly Orochi can't catch. While Flash is fast, probably faster than Orochi, the gap probably is not as large as people make it out to be. Orochi seems slow due to his large size and the fact that Garou in a weaker form could seemingly keep up with it. However, everyone who argues this either A, ignores the fact that Orochi was holding back, and B, Orochi completely outperformed and annihilated Garou at the end. And while you can argue that was more about power and not about speed, there's other avenues to extrapolate Orochi's speed. He should be far faster than Homeless Emperor, who an extremely battle-weary Tatsumaki could easily escape from. A Tatsumaki whose powers were degrading so rapidly she'd later lose to Führer Ugly shortly after this. Orochi in his goo state could do battle with a much healthier Tatsumaki in contrast. While no speedster, Homeless Emperor was still too fast for Vomit Fear Ugly, who could react to Darkshine's double bazooka and also nearly took down Atomic Samurai as well. Tatsumaki was also capable of reacting to Sonic, who very shortly after this was stated to be on par with Flash. Orochi's adaptation and skills would also pose a significant challenge for Flash, instantly copying high-level techniques with a glance. It's possible that after observing Flash's moves, Orochi may get an idea onto his style, if not completely reading him like a book. Remember that Garou could adapt to Tank Top Master so skillfully he could take him down with his back turned on the hero? And he is shown many times precisely reading the moves of his opponents before they make them. Yes, Garou eventually would outgrow the Monster King, but he was still considered more talented than the Hero Hunter at this point, and stole all his moves anyway. It could be very similar to a Netero versus Meruem situation, with Orochi testing all of Flash's moves and attacks until he creates an opening. Perhaps catch him off guard with his shapeshifting or his dragons and so on. It's also simply possible that Orochi could launch heat blasts across the entire lair that Flashy Flash wouldn't be able to dodge. For this hypothetical, Flash did make his way into Orochi's lair to fight him. It's not an open field or something, so it's an enclosed space that Orochi could basically turn into an oven. He was already capable of doing this when holding back on Garou, so imagine what he'd be capable of at full power. In conclusion, Flashy Flash simply doesn't have any abilities thus far capable of taking out Orochi. Orochi is just too powerful and with abilities that are outside of Flash's pay grade. I wouldn't be surprised if down the line Flash ends up surpassing Orochi, however, as in the recent arc he's been shown to basically two-punch Wind and Flame, who came back stronger than ever, when before Flash had a much harder time with them, showing how far he's come in the days following the Monster Association arc. Maybe with further training he will eclipse even the Monster King. It's also possible we will learn what his mysterious forbidden techniques are, which maybe those are secretly OP. I'm sure they are forbidden for a reason, but until then, Orochi remains the king.